Now for more on China's economy, let's bring in William Lee. He's the chief economist at the Milken Institute. William, always a pleasure. Good to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
China's economy has been so critical to the global economy, really in the past dozen years, the engine that really drove the global economy during the slowdown that really began the U.S. back in 2008. Now, what does this latest factory information tell you about China's economy and what we need to look out for globally moving forward?
Well, China's slowdown is a good hint that the supply chain is completely busted and hasn't shown any real signs of coming back together again, because China is such an integral part of that global supply chain. But in a way, the slowdown in industrial production and manufacturing in China is really a blessing in disguise, because China's growth has been overly dependent on manufacturing and construction for way too long. And many people around the world, including the IMF, has asked China to really shift more toward domestic consumption and boost the consumption sector and service sector, and that would be a great source of new jobs and high-paid jobs.
You know, and you really can't talk about anything from an economic standpoint right now without discussing COVID. We talked about at the start of the show. China continues its zero COVID policy. Clearly, that is having an effect on the recovery as well.
Oh, there's no question that COVID has been the big blanket that has dampened activity around the world, and especially in China. Different ways of approaching COVID, whether through vaccination or through shutdowns. China has emphasized shutdowns to contain a zero COVID policy. Other places have done it differently, but either way, it has led to a breakdown in that global supply chain and a breakdown in industrial production and job activity.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's going to work itself out anytime soon either. Now, spring shoppers are out. We saw a nice story from that from China as well. And we know a certain percentage of the population in China is looking for quality luxury goods. What's the early word? How is it shaping up against last year's shopping and looking back in those glory pre-pandemic days?
Well, it looks like Chinese consumers are like consumers around the world, even consumers like the United States, where they just want to buy good stuff. And this year we see that long distance travel has really picked up relative to where it was last year. So Chinese consumers are trying to do the traditional thing of bringing goods back home. And city dwellers, especially young city dwellers with good jobs, are trying to bring home good things to show their family that they're successful and to celebrate the new year together. The source of good, high quality goods comes from the foreign sources, but China itself has also become a source of production of a lot of these high quality goods. But the cachet and the names are still associated with the foreign products.
You know, it's interesting because I remember being in Shanghai. We were working on our story, and we went into a high-end mall, and the young lady who was buying makeup, she went right for the high-name brands. And I asked her why she was doing that. She said she was a teacher, and she really had saved the whole month to buy a certain lipstick and a certain shade of powder. Now, inflation certainly has to have an effect, but to what degree is it affecting Chinese shoppers? And do you expect to see this kind of moving forward to show your parents that you are successful? Is that really going to drive the economy as well?
Well, actually, it's something the economists call the income effect. As people become more rich and get better jobs and have more income, they want to have a better quality goods and services, and their consumption basket will shift upward. So this is a natural progression that we see in every country. China is clearly showing the signs it's no longer an emerging market, but actually a very well-developed economy with high-income jobs. Unfortunately, it hasn't spread out enough, and that's where the policies, I think, are addressed toward common prosperity to try to spread some of that prosperity.
And that leads us to your thoughts on the IMF cutting its global growth forecast for China.
Well, as you mentioned, China's slowdown itself is a good source of that slowdown, but it's really COVID. COVID is the main culprit that is the reason why every economy in the world just can't get back to where it was before. Even the United States, as much as Chair Powell has said, we've got a very strong labor market, we're still well below the levels of employment that we had pre-COVID. So I think one of the things that we need to watch out for is a way of containing COVID and trying to boost growth as a consequence.
William, we're a little bit tight on time, but I want to ask you about the long-term outlook for Chinese economy and Beijing's efforts to make it more consumption-based moving forward.
Oh, that is absolutely the key to China's future. And insofar as it's able to make it more consumption-based and based on digital economy where we have innovations from the internet-type companies, you get that digitalization is going to boost productivity, boost wages, and employ a lot more people. The migrant workers who are now construction workers and laborers can find better jobs in the service sector and much high-paying jobs.
You have a great way of breaking this down for us. Thanks very much. William Li, Chief Economist at Milken Institute.